and welcome to Supernatural Lifeline Revelations, where we always have a wonderful testimony, and that testimony is about what Jesus Christ can do for us and what he's done for you. Today we have so many amazing things to talk about. I have Janine Geneselli here, and she's going to tell us so many awesome things, and I cannot wait. I'm so excited. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
You were only here for, what, a week?
Yes.
You flew in, and I got the opportunity to see you. I was so excited.
I was excited that you asked me.
Well, our journey is kind of strange because we're woven together through, of course, same company, distributors, Eddie Nagic, which is the best water in the world, the Kangen water. And we love seeing people transformed, changed, and change your water, change your life is our slogan there. Exactly. And it's like a family that we form there.
It is.
And I remember, I've seen you on panel and I've seen you at different locations, and you've come out when I was speaking actually to see me, which was really exciting when I was speaking for Kangen. But it was when your son was in the hospital that I actually started sending you prayers and praying for you, and I felt like I was there with you.
And I appreciate that so much. So much.
It touched my heart because I saw how our Kangen family swarmed you and loved you. And I know, this was such a God divine moment then. So then you stood out with me all the time, and I always thought about you from that moment on.
I appreciate that.
Now,
and my son appreciated that too, because he's perfectly healthy and fine now. And after the doctor's saying, just shut the switch off, because nothing, he's gone, brain dead, totally dead. He's not coming back.
So the doctor tells you your son is brain dead, totally dead. He's not coming back.
All systems shut down.
And what happened at that moment?
I said, well, I'm not believing that, because he had been through so many overdoses, and which I thought was just not knowing how to mix his drugs. I found out later that it was actual attempts on his life. He just didn't want to live anymore. He felt he just screwed up his life, and that God didn't want him, and he just didn't want to be around. And so I felt that he'd been through so much that God wasn't ready to take him. He wasn't ready for him to come to heaven. So I just kept saying, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. And they kept saying, well, it's, mothers or fathers are always in denial. And I said, God created him, and God's going to take him when he's ready. And he's not ready. And they all just looked at me like I was, some crazy person. And when he came out of the coma, the first thing the doctor said to me were, well, this is shocking. When we take the intubation out, expect him not to respond, because he's brain dead. And I said, okay. And I walked over to his bed, and they took everything out, and I came in the room, and he just started talking. He was hungry, wanted to know why he was there, what was going on, what had happened. Okay, so your son comes out. First of all, they take everything off, expecting him to just pass away, right? Exactly.
You're there because you believe that God's hand is on your child, and you're not letting him go. So you're standing in the gap.
That's right.
And you're expecting him to live, and they're not.
Right.
So
and I'm expecting him to make a full recovery.
Full recovery.
Exactly.
So he comes out, and he's hungry. He's talking.
Totally like nothing had happened. He was out of the hospital 2 days later.
What was the doctor's look on their face? Like, what were they, I mean, could you see, and were you sitting
Well,
in?
a couple of them came in, and they were like, at one point, one of the nurses thought she was in the wrong room. And I said, no, this is Victor's room. And she's like, oh, no, I don't think so. And I said, yeah. She goes, no, this one was on life support. I go, yeah, he was about an hour ago. He's not anymore. And so she was just like shocked. Don Prosser was there. I mean, he's flown there to pray for him.
Don, after that, I just loved it when I saw him there. But, it just showed me God put me at the right place at the right time with the right company, and Don was there. And after that, what's so amazing is my Encounter conference I do every year. Don came to my conference, and he started coming to my classes, and it was so awesome. There was so much love, but even your son and yourself joined that together, because him and I would just start messaging him like, praise God, thank you for what you did. You did what we should do.
Exactly.
You took your
Especially when he was a Buddhist.
Yes, he was.
And
so you started teaching him about Jesus, and then he sent him to me. Yep. How awesome. You realize okay, wait a minute, this is not it. And he said, you just started real simple. He told me you started, he testified about it in my conference.
I didn't know that.
He said you started real simple, like with the basics. It was just like
Took him
one
to church
scripture at a time,
to
too.
start with.
The basics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just because a lot of times people, they think they think Christians are, they call them Bible thumpers and holy rollers, and they're running around quoting scripture and whatever. And then when you see somebody that's either not talking about the Bible or Jesus,
Just living it,
or worshiping another idol, then they say, oh well, they're not Christians. And I'm like, well, how do you know that? And they're like, well, because, well, Don, he's got such a pure heart.
Yes.
And he's so loving, and he served our country.
Yes.
And he had so much good in him that the outer stuff with the Buddhism and all these other things that, he was the Zen stuff, I knew that deep down inside, there was a child of God, number one, because God created him.
Yeah.
But I thought that, and he was like, oh, I'm too old to change. And I said, no, you're not. I
Yeah.
said, nobody is too old to change until they don't have a breath left in them. I didn't realize he talked to you about me doing that. I didn't think I did anything special at the time. I was just trying to get him to see, because he would say to me, because I'm always trying to be uplifting and happy and positive. And I believe that there are people that believe that the glass is half full or half empty. I believe it's half full even if there's a hole in the bottom of it with no water filling in it.
Amen, sister.
And
I'm
so,
right there with you.
I just, I thought to myself, well, he's a good person, and he would say to me, how can you go through this and this and this and this, and you still believe in that God? And I said, because that's all I've ever known.
And when Victor came out, it blew him away. And somewhere between then, because I saw you guys, I'm on Facebook, I'm on social media. People say, "Oh, social media is bad." It is what you created. Money is in your hand too, and some people use it for bad, and some people use it for good. But you're still using it, so use it for what it's good for. It is in the person, whoever is holding it, beholds it. That's what it's going to become. So I'm on social media. I see him with your son. I'm praying for your son. I start inboxing him. Your son makes a full recovery. It is a testimony to everybody because your son recovers when they were expecting him not to. And then right after that, I ended up having my encounter conference, and he says, I'm going to come. And he came, and that was when it was like he never spent 2 days, the cross, forgiveness, coming back to the Father, blah, blah, blah. And it was so awesome. We had a section where we just turned off all the cameras and we let him talk, and he got to get everything out. Wow. And it was the most awesome, amazing time. And you played a part. How the Bible says, one plants, another one waters, and God provides the increase. We both got to play a part, and this is our first time actually talking about it here with you guys, about how God has used us, and we're at the right company where it shows we're in divine purpose.
Exactly.
So fast forwarding forward, your son is healed, delivered, and God is done a mighty work there. I'm actually on YouTube one day, and I'm watching my spiritual father, Lobi Langomba, and at Victory, we're off of Victory Boulevard in Van Nuys, and it's called Revelation Church, of course, and I'm looking, and I was like, that can't be. I'm looking, I see you on the screen, and I'm like, oh my goodness, Papa, when did she come? Mickey's there. I know Mickey goes, because Mickey's always are in contact, but I'm like, oh my goodness. And I sent you a message, and I was like, in your inbox, I was like, is this you? You're like, yep.
Messed up hair, no makeup, looking the worst I'd ever looked in my entire life.
Don't feel bad, because when you go on YouTube and you look up RCJC and you see a picture of me on my first day there too, I looked absolutely horrible.
I doubt that.
No, it was the worst you probably could ever see me looking. I was in the worst moment, and I felt like God said, go find this church and go to this church, and he sent me there, and I got a prophetic word from Prophet Lovi. I was totally transformed. He told me something that was in my house that nobody could know where my bed was, something that was on my son that was attacking my son. He spoke over it. He got healed. My house was changed and transformed. My whole life went on a totally different turn the second I got connected with that ministry, and he became my spiritual father. This year he'll be speaking at our encounter again. It's in December, and we're so excited. Last year he came in so many healings, so much deliverance, and a bunch of people came from Enagic. Bunch of people. And so I don't know if you know, Emanuela. She's about 21. Yes. She's 20. She's totally on fire for the Lord. She got delivered at my conference 2 years ago. Last year, it was her mother. And they have been walking through this amazing journey. And so God's hand has just been with all of us, and we've been all connected in this way.
Wonderful.
So I look on there, and that's when I found out that you had cancer. And I began praying for you at that moment, because I was like, God, Prophet
Thank you, by the way, it worked.
Yeah, well, I love seeing the results, which is why we're here and we're talking about this today. It's about the fact that she's cancer-free, and I want to talk about this process because there's so many people out there that feel like radiation and chemotherapy are their only hope, and they scare them, and they're scaring them into this belief. And we know differently, from Killing Cancer, Not People, and all the things, Alkalize or Die book. These are all books, you guys, and we know that the body thrives in cancer. It cannot really live in an alkaline environment, according to Dr. Otto Warburg, who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1931 for discovering two things: what cancer was and how to kill cancer. But that is all things you can look up on Google. This is what they gave him the Nobel Peace Prize for. But yet sugars and different things can actually impact and can make it grow. We know that cancer begins to thrive in anything above 6.0 environment in your body, pH. So, knowing all that we know, you had hope from that phase. You told me you went to RCJC and Prophet Lobi prayed for you. What happened that day?
Well, I was there. It was a surprise at the last minute. Mickey had invited me, and I really didn't want to go because I had a really bad day that morning. Because at the time when I was diagnosed as stage 1. So I thought, I'm okay, I got time, whatever. And one of our fellow distributors, I found out that morning at the office, had passed away, stage 1. Same type of breast cancer I had, and I was just devastated. I was walking around the office in Torrance like a zombie. And out of the blue, Mickey came up to me and said, hey, how's it going? Gave me a hug. And I said, I'm not doing too good. I said, I just found out, somebody had passed away, and they were stage 1. And so he said, why don't you come to church with me tonight? And I said, no. I said, thanks. I said, I really don't want to be anywhere tonight. I'm not in a good mood, not in a good place. And he says, no, I want you to come. And he kept texting me all afternoon to come. And I didn't have the right clothes. I didn't have time when he told me where it was.
You don't need those at our church.
It was an hour. Yeah, I noticed that. Everybody just come as you are.
Come as you are.
Right. So
Outreach.
I was driving.
RCJC.
And I said, okay, I'll come. He says, oh, good. So he met me out front, and I said, I don't know these people. Will you sit with me? And he said, sure. And I said, okay, great. And I walked in, and it wasn't what I expected, because I thought it was going to be like a church with a steeple and the cross out front. And so I walked inside.
We're so free up in there.
Oh, yeah. And we're sitting, and he was sitting with some people, and I really forgot, because it's been over 2.5 years ago. I forgot why I moved. But I was sitting in another area, and the pastor was calling out people to come up and get healed. And I'm just, like checking my iPhone and just look, because I was still in daze over what I heard. You were kind of checked out. I was checked out because I couldn't get over remembering.
So he's calling people. Prophet Lobi is calling people to be healed, and you don't even think to go up because you're in this place. You're in a dark place.
And he didn't ask people to come up. He was picking them,
calling them.
He was looking at them.
He was prophetically. God was locating the people.
Exactly.
And that happens a lot at our church. There's prophets, then there's prophets, and like Elijah. He's not just like, oh, I'm a house prophet. No, there were even the sons of prophets, and he is a prophetic. God gives him revelation and insight. He can see. So he's a seer and he's a hearer. So he locates the people, and God can let him see who needs it. So you get located.
Yes, and
did he call you by name, or he just pointed you out?
No, he just said, "Sister, come up here." And what was ironic about all this is that my mother, God rest her soul, professed to be a Christian, and I guess she was kind of went in her own way.
Right.
But she was very judgmental.
Uh-huh.
And so if you didn't do things her way, or if the relationship wasn't male-female, and if it wasn't African-American, Caucasian, and if all these other things, she just had an attitude.
Like there's no way you could be saved.
Yeah, exactly. And so when she would see these things on television, she was a little French woman, 4'9". Oh, what the hypocrite, the healing, that's not true. And then she'd see Benny Hinn, knocking people out, and she called all that hypocrisy. So when you hear that all of your life,
yes,
you kind of believe a lot of it. So
this is your first time having a prophetic encounter truly with God.
First time.
Oof, I love this.
And so when some of the people came up and he said they were healed, like I said, I was thinking about my friend that had passed away. Then he called me up, and I was like, oh, Lord. And I didn't want to go up because I knew he didn't know me. He didn't know anything about me. He didn't know
nobody knew anything about you at this point.
Nobody but Mickey. But Mickey only knew that I had cancer. Nothing else.
Nothing else. So nobody knew. And Mickey's a visitor. He doesn't go there. There's nothing to be staged. And you just happened to be where you were. No plan to be there. And all of a sudden, Prophet Lobi locates you and calls you up.
Right.
Okay.
So I walked up hesitantly. And I didn't know this was being filmed. I didn't know there were cameras rolling and nothing. I just went up there, and he starts talking to me, and I was like, I wasn't into it at first, because all I could see was my mother saying, how dare you get up there and be such an embarrassment to me, because all this is fake. And so that's all I kept thinking about. And then he started saying things about me and talking about my son, who was a drug addict and who almost died. And then he started talking about, illnesses that I had. And then when I had uterine cancer in 2013, he knew that. He knew what happened in the bathroom over something that passed he was talking about something green.
Yeah.
Remember? That I was like, how the heck could anybody know that? When I didn't even tell my doctor that. It was like, so I'm starting to listen. So all of a sudden at some point, I don't know, I guess maybe, I don't remember, but maybe it came across on my face. But all of a sudden, I just was like thinking, Mom, get out of my mind because this is real. Just get out of my mind. I don't even want to think about my mother right now because whatever's happening here is real. And then to make a long story short, when he said that I had been healed and he touched me and I was trembling and I was crying and I was like, oh my gracious, this is this stuff that I've never experienced before, and I was blown away. So it was such a moving experience that I left there believing that I was healed.
Yes.
And then 10 days later, I had to go in for an ultrasound. So I walked in there just confident, cocky, knew that it was going to be nothing, and then came back out and said, oh, no, the tumor's growing. I said, no, the tumor can't be there. Because I got a prophetic healing a couple weeks ago, and he said it was taken away. God took it away. He said, no, it's bigger than it was last time you were here. And I was blown away. But I didn't lose faith.
You didn't lose faith.
Never.
Well, I think a lot of people don't understand that there's sometimes it's immediate, because I've watched Papa Lo pray for people. They came back, then they had the test right in their hand. They could never have children. There was nothing there, and all of a sudden there's baby. Like, I've seen it so many times now. And then there's some people, like you said, you were in the midst of discovering your purpose. So if God had healed you right then, you would have never had all these amazing things that have happened to you.
Exactly.
So
even more than you could imagine.
And the bigger the testimony that you have now too about the way that he healed you. But you never lost hope because the man of God told you had this experience. You felt God flow to your body. You knew that you just had to keep digging. And so some of them said that, like the lepers, it says, as they went, they were healed. So there was as they went, and then there's the man that picked up his walk mat and he goes and he's healed immediately. And either way, the testimony comes through, but your testimony was in the making of your purpose in your life. It was linking
I knew
you to
there
it.
must be a reason. I mean, because I've never questioned God my entire life. I've never said, why me? I've never said, why my son? I've never had that mindset because I was raised so strict. And so, Billy Graham's daughter was my Sunday school teacher. Pastor Charles Stanley's my brother-in-law. Andy Stanley's my nephew. So I've always been around spiritual people.
Yes.
So I didn't have a chance to not believe.
Right.
But one of the books, because you mentioned Bob Wright's book, and another book that you need to check it out.
Yeah.
It's called Hope for Cancer. The 7 Principles to Non-Toxic Healing of Healing Cancer.
I've got to read it.
Dr. Tony Jimenez wrote it, and it just came out a few months ago. And in that book are the 7 Principles to Healing Cancer. And so it's an amazing book, and it talks about faith, it talks about spirituality. Dr. Tony is just an amazing person. I can't
I'm going to have this book by tonight. I'm going to be on Amazon buying this book.
Well, it's not on Amazon. You got to go to the Hope for Cancer.
I have to go to their
website, and you go scroll on the bottom of the page.
People on the screen right now.
Hope for Cancer, and that's Hope, H-O-P-E, the number 4, cancer. .com. You scroll down to the bottom of the page, and you'll see Order Your Book Now. And you click on that, you'll get your book in about 10 days, and the book is amazing. It is so helpful, not just for cancer, for any type of physical healing needed, because it's so important about the spirituality. And that's the main reason I wanted to go there initially, because everything there is done spiritually.
So you told me this. Okay, so you went through all these journeys, then it went to stage 2, then stage 1, then back to stage 2, and you're looking for what to do. You run into one of our guy friends at our distributors at Magic, Michael Maxwell, and he's like, I'm going with you to Mexico. You're like, I'm just going. You felt this urge and you just like, I'm about to go. Going to Mexico, and he goes with you, but you're going to a
I wouldn't have gone
place.
had it not been for some friends that started a GoFundMe to try to get funds for me to go, because then at that point I thought, well, I guess I can check it out now that there's
what was
months
the cost for something like that?
Well, for this particular type of cancer, because of the protocols and everything, it was about $45,000, and all that had been raised at this point was $2,000.
Okay.
And because I refused to post it on my Facebook, I just couldn't ask people for money. So if it got posted from somebody else, great. I wasn't going to do it.
I had a few friends that were like that recently, and I had to talk with them about, you know what? I said, you're robbing us from, there's people like me that want to sow, and you're robbing me from pouring into your life. I said, please post when you have a need. Pull out on our pride and say, God, if you want to allow people to bless me, bless me. Because I'm one of those people. If I see, I will support, I will bless. And I'm like, there's tons of them just like me.
Well, you're right. I see that, but I had a problem with that. I mean, I post all the time for others. I even start GoFundMe's all the time for other people, but for myself, I just couldn't ask. But when I went to Tijuana with Michael, my dear friend, I ended up seeing Dr. Jimenez that day at his office. And
by chance, too. He wasn't even supposed to be there?
Right.
And he was
there? He found out that I was there taking a tour, and he said he wanted to speak with me, him and his wife. And I went to meet with them, and he remembered meeting me in Atlanta at a Healing Strong Summit.
Wow. All God things.
God things. All God things.
And so you remembered meeting you. So he makes a way to see you. And now what?
And they had my medical records from day one because I kept wanting to go there. And I kept saying, well, if you have a scholarship or if you have anything going on there, I can do a half a treatment or something, because I wanted to go there because it was Christ-led. All the other facilities, they were just hospitals treating people and hoping for the best.
Okay.
This facility, all 4 of his facilities, he has one in Tijuana, one in Cancun, one in Colombia, and one in Thailand.
Okay.
And all of these facilities, they give all the glory to God. They start their day with prayer in the hospital, in the clinic.
Yes.
And spiritual music, and their Bibles in every room. And it's just a totally different atmosphere. So it's all about God there, and that's why I wanted to go there. And so I met with him and his wife, and then they told me about the TV show that was coming up, 8 Days, that Charles Maddox is doing, which is airing January 4th on the FYI channel.
Yes.
And
right after my birthday.
and I
the
told
day after my birthday.
Really, I have to remember that. And so I was blown away that that there might be a possibility, and they said there are sometimes benefactors and people that will help, and angels, as she calls them. And Marcy's she's an angel herself.
Yes.
We just clicked immediately. And so to make a long story short, God ended up finding a way for me to get there, and I went the 29th of July, and in 21 days, I went there with
I was watching you. I could just
my
cry.
videos.
And you'd be in these things, like you'd be covered, and you would look so happy. You're posting your food. So, I was like one of those.
I'm so touched that you follow me, because I had no idea you were following me, because I know you're so busy.
I am, but there's certain people that inspire me. And so I was go watch you. You post your food. You were posting like what you were doing, and you were just giving these joyful things to people. And I loved it. I just wanted you to know. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I'm not one for rah-rah's me kind of thing. But people were, half the people wanted to know what was going on. The other half the people had cancer in my world, and they wanted to know what it was all about, and I didn't want them to know there was fear or wonder, the unknown. And so, with those videos and everything, and I was trying to keep people, positive and upbeat and share with them the story and everything. But what was so ironic, and this is why Hope for Cancer is the place to go to with any illness, or even if you just want a wellness check. I went there with what I thought was just a tumor in my right breast.
Okay.
When I got out of there, when I left there, just 21 days later, my tumor was gone.
Right.
I found out that I had a small hernia that I didn't know about that was undetected here, chipped cartilage in my right elbow, and a benign cyst on my left breast. I went in there having a food and sugar addiction that I knew I had, but I didn't know why I had it, and I didn't know how to fix it.
Okay.
And so I came out of there knowing that, thanks to the wonderful therapy, because they give you therapy in there. Dr. Leslie's amazing. She's like incredible. And this wasn't the first time I've been in therapy. So I know a good therapist when I see one, and she was amazing. And the things that came out, I walked out of there conquering my addictions. It's been tough, and it's been a struggle, but at least I know what they are. So at least I'm staying away from sugar now. I'm watching what I eat. I'm eating the healthiest I've ever eaten in my entire 57 years of life. Thank you. I feel amazing.
Awesome.
I feel amazing. But I left there with all that gunk and the toxic stuff and toxic friendships and toxic behavior that I'd always just gravitated to help people, because Michael calls me Mother Teresa. But I like to help people.
Right.
But I was helping people so much that I was shortchanging myself by not sleeping, not eating properly, draining my finances to help people get machines that couldn't afford to buy one. I was doing all this stuff to help others, and I was drowning. And so
Talking to somebody now.
Yeah, I know how good you are with people and what you do for others. So it was just amazing to leave there and say, wow. And this is why I'm writing this book, which I've changed the name 3 times now, because it's now I'm thinking of calling it breast cancer, beast or blessing, because I've said from day 10 that there was something good about getting sick, and I just didn't know what it was. And since I've gotten involved with all the people that I've met and the Facebook page, and especially Hope for Cancer, I now realize my cancer was a blessing. And I've had people look at me like I was off my rocker.
Job says it was good that I was afflicted.
Yes.
And it brought you to this place. Now you're freeing people. Now you've got your Facebook, you have YouTube, I believe. You do some YouTubing.
Yes.
You have your show that you're going on that's getting ready to air. You're getting invited to shows like mine. I mean, you flew into town. I'm like, hey, I need you. So I'm so happy. This can't be our last one. We have to do another follow-up.
Actually, I flew in here because I just went to Vegas, and that's where I was going to be, and just go back to home. And then when you said you wanted me to come, I was so honored, so I flew directly in here and leaving tomorrow.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
okay, Stacey's going to make me cry. This is so awesome. I know we only have like a few minutes left. I just want you to really tell people what they can do, how they can connect with you, and the hope that they need to actually get free from their own toxicity and whatever's going on in their life. And I have a friend that just got diagnosed. I was telling her about you, and you encouraged me. And then I got this call from this guy. He's like, can I call you? It was really, really late. I was like, yeah, it was on Facebook or something. I was like, sure. It was strange. I don't, he just said, I want you to know I never click like, but I had this is my first year celebration of being free from cancer. And I said, he said, I listen to your messages every single day.
Wow.
I was like, what? I didn't even know he had cancer. I didn't know anything. And then I started talking to him about you. And then my girlfriend I was really frustrated with her because I didn't like her eating patterns, and she has cancer, breast cancer. So I was like, what can I do? So tell the people right now, you can feel free to look in the camera and tell the people what they can do, where they can reach you, how they can stay connected, and your biggest lesson that you've learned out of this.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, to start with, you've got to have faith. You've got to have hope, because cancer is not a death sentence. I thought it was. I've always thought it was, but it's not. And I learned that through this journey. It's not a death sentence. There is hope. First thing to do, you pray. You ask God to guide you, to lead you in the right direction. You contact Hope for Cancer and let them know. They'll give you a free consultation. They'll look at your medical records and see what's going on, and see what they can do for you. And if you can't afford to go to the facility, all programs are different pricing, so everybody's different. So don't think you can't afford it. You are worth it. You are worth the journey of good health. And throughout your entire journey, trust God, because when you trust God, He makes things happen. They're not always in your timing. Sometimes it's at the 12th hour, sometimes it's 1 minute after the 12th hour, but He always comes through when you believe. And so for those of you out there, just have faith, and you can get in touch with me, Janine Janicelli. My cancer Facebook page is Conquering Cancer and Preventing It. And I have a weekly call, and I guess you can contact Taryn, and she can let you know when the call is. It's every Wednesday. As a matter of fact, next Wednesday, Dr. Tony Jimenez is going to be on the call. He was my guest speaker 2 weeks ago, and he's going to be a guest again, answering all your questions about cancers, illnesses, anything you want to ask, you can call in. And so I thank you so much for having me, and for letting the world know there are alternatives. And this is, my last thing I can say is, it's your body. Don't let any doctor, any practitioner, anybody tell you to do what they say until you feel right. Get your second and third opinions. Go and do your research to find out about holistic, because I'm a testament that it does work. It took 2.5 years for me. Probably would have taken a month or two if I'd started at Hope for Cancer, but the journey that I've had and the people I've met and what I've learned about American medicine, conventional versus alternative, it's been a lifelong
And now
experience.
You are what? Say it out loud.
I have to say NED, no evidence of disease, but I am cancer-free. Thanks to God, thanks to Hope for Cancer, and thanks to prayers from wonderful people like you.
Oh my goodness! And I'm just so happy for my Papa Lo. And I told him about you, and so he was like, "Really? She's coming?" I was like, "Yeah." So I'm very excited.
Please give him my best.
I will. Maybe
and
next
thank
time.
him for starting the journey to my good health.
I'm going to have to put you guys back together.
For
so
sure.
Thank you guys so much. This has been such a wonderful segment, just bringing hope to you and just knowing that there's so many other alternatives. We're going to have her back, and please follow her. I know that God is always working, and He's working in the midst of whatever you're going through, and it's bringing you right to your purpose. So give Him glory and honor. I am so excited about this message because it needs to go to the entire world. So tag, share, and invite. Remember that your tagline is somebody else's lifeline. That's why we're here with Supernatural Lifeline Revelations. I'm your host, TNT, Taryn N Tarver. I am the prophet in the house. God bless you.